talk about this little menorah which we drew on the board. This is a 7-branch menorah. It's not really good for Hanukkah. But you know what the 8th branch is? Where do the eras end? The eras that I'm showing on the board, as you can see, they end at year 2000. So we have to continue to create Torah, to continue the chain of tradition, even beyond. We're in the 8th era right now. Me and you, Eitan, and Pinchas, Israel, Binyamin. Let's talk about the different types of Torah literature, because everything else you kind of know. Boker tov, Aaron. Oh, welcome. You're joining us today? Yes. Amazing, amazing. Well, you're getting a treat. If you, the treat is right here on the board. It's really something special. We're going to put it to song. We have to make it fit that song. But you can. Binyamin, are you sitting here? Yeah, Binyamin is sitting here. So sit on the other side. Anyways, let's take a look. I divided up 3,500 years of Jewish history into 7 eras. Of course, there's more, a little bit before, a little bit afterwards, hopefully a lot afterwards. This is everything that was up till now is just the beginning. B'ezrat Hashem, the future of the Jewish people is still ahead of us, as they say. So the first era, the dominant power in Israel, is of course Egypt. We know that during the time of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and even all the way to the time of, through Moshe and Aaron, and then Yoshua, maybe even into the period of Shoftim. Egypt is the dominant power of the entire Middle East for the entire 500 years at least that we're speaking about, from minus 1500 to about minus 1000. Only at the beginning of the first temple. I should add this in here. I don't know exactly how to do that, but I'll put it in here. First temple. And of course, in the second, the third period is the second temple. Do we have the reign of Solomon? And of course, I could have written also Assyria, but I want to keep it simple. Babylon is the one who destroyed the first temple. Everybody knows about Babel and its power in that time period when the first temple was destroyed. Going from minus 1000 to minus 500, we know that the temple was destroyed in minus 586. It's already here. Exactly. I'm sort of restructuring it and restating it, dividing up the dominant powers from the literature, from the leadership. Perhaps the most important is what I was trying to teach you is the names of the leadership. But let's go in order. So far, the dominant powers: Egypt, Babylon, and Persia / Greece. Of course, the second temple period. The second temple period is in year minus 165. Alexander the Great, minus 333. Alexander the Great conquered Israel, and the Hanukkah story happened about 150 years later, when the Syrian Greeks took over during the Greek period in the second temple. That's what we're celebrating next week, right? The rededication of the second temple. It's in the middle of the second temple era, okay? Even towards the end, towards the latter part. Of course, Rome takes over. This is supposed to be a Roman eagle. Here, I don't want to make a cross, so
yeah, don't do it.
I won't. The Muslim, I can make a crescent. What's that? Do I put a star here? For Morocco? Tonight? In the game, Morocco? And the Muslim crescent?
You need to play
The entire Muslim world is behind Morocco, even though they hate each other and they kill each other all year round. But now, Morocco represents the entire Arab world. is the first Arab country to make it into the World Cup. Any case, the Muslim era and then the Turkish era, the Ottoman era it's really called, but people don't know what that means, so I wrote the Turks. So these are the 7 eras of what's been going on in the land of Israel. During that period, we have the first period that we call them the prophets, like Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Maybe I'll call them the forefathers also, but it doesn't really fit so well because I want to do the Hebrew words: Nevi'im, Melachim for kings, and Sofrim. Sofrim are scribes. Ezra HaSofer, during the Second Temple period, right? They were putting together the finishing touches on the Tanakh. We were talking about the other day, 24 books of the Tanakh. The last books were from the beginning of the Second Temple era. Chaggai's Chayan Malachi, we spoke about it the other day. Then we reach towards the end of this period of the Sofrim. There's a group called, what's the group of Jewish leadership? We don't know too much about it. It's called the Men of the Great Assembly, Knesset. I wonder if they managed to get a government. Now they're forming a government in the Knesset, the modern day Knesset. It's the parliament, Knesset. Anshe Knesset HaGdolah, together with the Sofrim. Towards the end, there are pairs of leaders. We spoke about it yesterday. We're going to study some of their works tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. And then we have the major push forward with the Chachamim, the sages. Chachamim. So we have Nevi'im, Melachim, Sofrim, Chachamim. I'm wondering how to stick in here, Kohanim also. They were the leadership. We know in the Second Temple time, also in the First Temple time, the Kohanim were, of course, in charge of the temple. Whenever there was a temple, there was Kohanim. So we all put that all the way through here. Kohanim had a major role. And also the 120. Anshe Knesset HaGdolah. But it doesn't match the rhyme. Nevi'im, Melachim, Sofrim, Chachamim. Many times we say Chachamim what? What do we give them a title?
Chazal.
Yeah, what does that mean? Chazal stands for? Zichronam Livracha, of blessed memory. That's right. It's the same guys. These are the sages of the Midrash, Mishnah, Gemara. I only put one body of literature. Talmud includes the Mishnah and the Gemara. So the Talmud, it was created and formed during this. That's why I call it the foundational period. Foundational period, because all of Judaism afterwards is based on the writings of the sages. Okay? Next period is called the Babylonian rabbis, or Geonim. It was an official position in Babylon. And then we have somehow a separation between the Geonim and the Rishonim, and then the Rishonim and the Acharonim, the early rabbis and the later rabbis, the early ones, the later ones, that's what the words mean. Okay, so we have, these are the leadership. The leadership have a special name in each period. I don't want to confuse you, but this period also gets divided up. I'll put it here in brackets, although I wouldn't put it in the song. You hear that, Stephen? I wouldn't put it in the song. But I would say that the period gets divided up into two. That Tanaim, that is the authors of the Mishnah, and the Amoraim are these the ushers of the Gemara. So we have a lot of Hebrew words for different types of scholars, Chachamim. But in general, we call them all Chachamim. Okay, Tanaim and Amoraim, many times you'll hear those words because we want to be more precise. surely was one of the sages, but was he of the first 200 years or the next 300 years? This period of 500 years, from 0 to 500, right? It gets divided up into 0 to 200 is the Tanaim, and 200 to 500 is the Amoraim. And the Tanaim. Okay, the Mishnah and the Gemara. Amora sounds like Gemara. Okay, then now let's focus in on the next part. The next part, what did the Gaonim do? What did they write? We have all the books of the written Torah. Torah, prophets, and writings. Tanakh, right? Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim is writings. So should I put this in Hebrew? The only problem is we already have Nevi'im. Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim. And then now we have the Talmud, which we said is a restatement of the oral Torah. It's the first time it gets written down in the book. 6 orders of the Mishnah. We spoke about it the other day. By topic for the first time ever. Not according to the order of the Tanakh. We have, up till here, we have 24 books. Right? Yeah. And now in the Talmud we have 63 books. A new system of 6 orders divided into 63 books divided into 6 orders, right? So this is a new structure. What's left? Nothing. We really don't have foundational books of the same sort. Until today, we use the Talmud as the basic text of Judaism, and of course the Tanakh. What do we have afterwards? 3 new types of literature, which I want to speak about with you today, now that we put it in context. Anything so far about the context? You want to talk about what I said so far? Questions?
Leaders.
The leaders, yes. In English and in Hebrew. This is the translation. The leaders.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay?
What's this Sofrim?
Sofrim.
Sofrim.
So scribes. How do you say scribes in people who write the holy texts? The writers of the holy text, like Ezra came and he fixed all the Sifrei Torah that they would be the correct version, and they established the Tanakh. Okay. So that's scribes in English. Scribes and Sofrim in Hebrew. Any other questions so far? We're good? Okay, so let's talk about the 3 new types of literature. As I said, the Talmud is such a basic book. Until today, most yeshivot, most people that study Torah is all of this. They study Tanakh and they study Talmud. But the Talmud, it doesn't go away. It's still the central text. But what do we have? Historically, what happened was that the Talmud was completed in Israel around year 500, like I showed you on the chart. In Babylon, it was only completed in year 700, 6 or 700. They continued to edit it and to work on it even into year 800. And then it started to spread all around the world. The Babylonian Talmud was spread all around the exiles. There's a story. It's called The Four Prisoners. The 4 people that were hijacked by pirates. The story goes like this. There were these scholars from Babylon that needed, what do the rabbis have to go overseas to visit all the other communities for? Until today, Why do rabbis travel to different Jewish communities around the world? Does anybody know?
To review them.
Nice, but keep thinking. Why would a rabbi leave Israel and go to America today, for example, to speak to the Jews in America? Teach them. There you go. They needed money. They needed money for the yeshivot in Bavel. They needed money, and so they would travel. They traveled, and the legend of these 4 rabbis is that they went into a boat together from Bavel. We know their names. Chushiel, I don't remember all of them off by heart. You can look it up. And they were hijacked. They were by pirates. Pirates took their boat, and they realized they have a treasure here. And you know what they did? They went to all the various countries. It's okay, I'm going to get up now. All around. I don't know if you can see on this map. From Babylon, they went through Israel, and you can see the Mediterranean basin. There were Jewish communities in Italy, and in Spain, and in North Africa, and in Egypt. And in all these 4 different countries around the Mediterranean, they said to the Jewish community, you want to save this great rabbi? Pay us ransom. And they did. And this way, what happened was the Jewish community, each one of these 4 communities ransomed one of these 4 rabbis. And the rabbi found himself in a new country with a Jewish community, and he started teaching them the Torah. Up until that time, the scholars were all concentrated in Babylon. But after this period, there was a new yeshiva all of a sudden in Spain, a new yeshiva in Italy, a new yeshiva in North Africa, a new yeshiva in Egypt. And this is how the Torah spread. What's the transition? The scholarship spread. I'm talking about there was Jews, they were already scattered, but they didn't have their own learning. They didn't have the brain power. Right? So there was a brain drain. The legend of the 4 rabbis that were ransomed explains how about year 1000 we see all of a sudden there's scholars not only in Babylon, but they're all over in the period of the Rishonim. So this is about the transition between the period of the Geonim. So 4 of the Geonim, they were concentrated in Bavel. I skipped over a stage. After the Talmud was finished, about year 600, 700, in Babylon, the Talmud spread. Jews took it with them. It was sent to Jewish communities all around the world. There was only one problem. They couldn't understand what to do. The Talmud is primarily discussions. They're here and there. There are bottom lines. Many times the bottom line is confusing. There's contradictions between this conversation and that conversation. 63 books, or we said in the Gemara, there's only 37 or 39. So we have it on the board here in the Yerushalmi. There are many, many Masechtot, 2,711 pages according to our standard count, the way we use nowadays. So many complex discussions and so many concepts that people couldn't make right from left. They didn't know what to do. So you know what they did? They sent an email. Oh, they didn't have email. What did they do?
Messenger.
They sent the messages and letters. Absolutely. They sent letters. They sent letters with questions. Dear rabbis, where are the rabbis concentrated? Babylon. Right? We're talking about the Babylonian rabbis here in this period. The Talmud, there were, during the period of the sages, there was a center in the land of Israel up until year 500. But then they couldn't make it under the Romans anymore. And the center of learning was in Babylon, Syria, Iraq. That's where they had relative freedom. and they established something called the Geonit. There was a leader who was called the Gaon. The Geonim, it was appointed by the Jewish community. There was another leader of the community as well. The Gaon was the spiritual leader. There was a Reish Galuta, which was the political leader, the head of the Galut. Galut means exile. The head of the exile. The head of the exile, and the Gaon. Gaon in modern Hebrew means, what's a Gaon in modern Hebrew? Genius, exactly, a genius. So the genius is the head. It was more of an appointed position. How can you determine who's a genius? But it was a position. And they sent letters from all around the world to the Geonim. We don't understand what to do. When does Shabbat start? When does Shabbat end? When do we light the Hanukkah candles? How long do they have to last? Everything under the sun. This woman slept with another man's husband. What do we do? This person stole property. We don't understand. We can study in the Talmud, but we need guidance. The guidance came from the Geonim for almost 500 years. From year 500 to year 1000. And the Geonim were concentrated in one place, in the Bavel. Almost all of the great scholars were there. And so this started off what's known as the literature of responsa. Responsa means, in English, questions and answers. Exactly. It's letters that were sent in, queries that were asked. And the rabbi sent back letters. This is how you should understand it. This is how you should teach it. This is how you should practice it. And there's a collection upstairs in the library. I think it's 20 volumes of collected letters from the Gaonic period. And that's most of the type of literature that we have from that first period. The book is the Talmud. There's no other book. But the explanations of the Talmud were in the form of letters. We call them responsa. In Hebrew, what's it called? Does anybody know?
Cuba.
Good.
Answer.
And questions. Questions and answers in Hebrew is she'elot
Cuba.
u teshuvot. Let me write this in as well. She'elot u teshuvot has the acronym of shoot. She'elot is questions. U and teshuvot are answers. Teshuvot. And you can see here the sh and the ut. Make a word called shoot. Shoot. The shoot literature.
It's
Now-
not France, but shoot.
Don't switch it with an I. Not polite. Shoot is the responsa literature. It's a whole. It didn't end though. We're going to see other types of literature soon that in the later periods became more and more popular. But for many, many years, and until today, there is a literature called Shut. So we have Shut from this period, from this period, from this period, from the entire Jewish history since the Talmud, we have literature of responsa, questions and answers. The most recent version. What's the most recent version? 1 second, Benjamin. What's the most recent version? I just got it yesterday on WhatsApp.
Oh.
Or before there was WhatsApp, people used SMS. Shoot SMS. Very short questions and very short answers. People ask their rabbis questions. Nowadays it's a short text message. It's very easy. Hundreds and hundreds every single day. Rabbis are receiving questions and giving answers. The original, of course, was long letters with longer discussions and longer, more reasoned answers. But sometimes people just want to know, bottom line, what do I do? And for that, the SMS or the WhatsApp is very good. Very good. So, Shut is the next type of literature. For most of 1,000 years, it's been, paper, long letters, essays, reasoned explanations. In more recent times, also, that's also, but it's not literature, obviously. Right? If you write it down afterwards, you call up a rabbi, you ask for a question, you get an answer. That's called shut. It's called sheilot, utshuvot, questions and answers. Yes.
Was this period that the Christians steal from the letters?
What letters?
Post-
Oh, they
Correspondence.
Yeah. I mean, always we always had to deal. Jewish communities around the world had to deal with the authorities. The authorities at various points in our history were upset at the Jewish remaining loyal to the Torah and the Talmud. And sure, some of the letters were hijacked. Some of them were. Some of the Talmud was censored by the authorities, crossed out, erased. Things they thought were offensive to them. But it's a whole nother parsha. Okay. So responsa. Okay, we're good with responsa? The other two types of literature which crop up. Still, the main texts are the Tanakh and the Talmud. T and T. Tanakh and Talmud. That's the basis of Judaism. But there's responsa literature. There's also, after a while, people said, let's take all the information that we got from all the responsa, from all the Talmud, and let's write a code of law. That's what I wrote here. This became more popular in the period of the Rishonim. Code of law. Code. Code means a halacha book. A halacha book. Maybe you know a new version of a code of Jewish law. We study it, right? The Shulchan Aruch you might have heard of. Any other codes of law that you know of? Do you know any codes? Books of halacha where they tell you what to do about each topic. They don't wait for the question to come. They write down, on this day do this, on that day do that. Every day start off shacharit and do mincha. What are the laws of mincha? What are the laws of... The Siddur tells you what to say.
Okay.
But what about the laws? So the truth is, in the back of the Siddur, there is a few pages of halacha. But what about a book which is not doesn't have the text of what to say, but it's a rule book, a book of law, laws. Do you know any of those books, Jewish laws? Exactly. Good. Those are good examples.
Mishnah?
No, Mishnah is earlier. Mishnah is the foundation of the Talmud, right? That's the period of the sages. I'm talking about after that.
All the halakha is from this time?
The halacha is throughout Jewish history. Halacha just means what to do.
Yes, but the books, the halakha...
The books of halacha only start after the Talmud and the Gaonic period. Maybe there's one book of halacha from the Gaonic period, not even. There's one Siddur from the Gaonic time. But as terms of proper structured books, what's the most famous? The most famous code of Jewish law, where he tried, the author, you've heard of him, he tried to summarize all of the law from put it into a code. Nope, that's later. CE.
Mishnah Torah?
There we go. What's the Mishnah Torah?
Written by...
Written by? We have it right there on the shelf. See that book, that series of yellow books on the top shelf? Yeah. That is the 14 books. Bring it down, Eitan. Bring it down. Put it on the table for everybody to see and touch. You can hand them around. Give everybody one. It's a set, but you can hold it in your hand, and you can see that this is perhaps the first and most famous code of Jewish law. Let's. Can I have one too? I'll show you what it looks like. What does it say on top? Rabbeinu Moshe ben Maimon. What does that stand for?
Maimonides.
Right, Maimonides or Rambam. You see, Rabbeinu is Reish, Mem is Moshe, Ben is Bet, Rambam. His father's name was Maimon, so it's Rambam. Rambam, Rabbeinu Moshe ben Maimon. And he wrote the book called Mishneh Torah. It has a nickname. Mishneh Torah means a repetition of the Torah. He tried to create a book for the layman who can't study the Talmud on his own, or it's too complicated, or he says, I'll write the book in Hebrew, not in Aramaic. I will not make it full of discussions and contradictions. I'll make it as simple as possible. He divided his code of Jewish law into how many books? How many books in the Rambam? Try to count them here. These are the names.
6.
These are look at the volumes. Look at the volume. You have all the volumes here. You have there's more still up on the shelf. Eitan, you didn't bring them down. Excellent. How did you know that? You learned something in your days. Absolutely. 14. You can count them here. Hamada, Ahava, Zmanim, Nashim, Kedusha, Afla'a, Zra'im, Avodah, Korbanot, Tarag, Nazikim, Kinyan, Mishpatim, Shoftim. 14 books on 14 different topics. 14 in Gematria is 10 is Yud. And what's 4? Dalid. What word does that make? The Yud and the Dalid.
Yad.
Hand. Its nickname, this book, this series, is called The Strong Hand. Yad HaChazaka. It's this book. Its official title is Mishneh Torah, a repetition of the Torah, or restatement of the Torah, you could say. And its nickname is Hayad HaChazaka, the strong hand. Why? Because it's 14 books. We divided it into 14 sections. Well, when was the last time the Torah was divided into categories? And into books?
The oral Torah?
Yeah, before the Rambam. When was the Torah? How was it stated or retold? Yeah, we have it. That's right, the Mishnah. And we spoke about it. The Tanakh was 24 books. The Mishnah is 63 books divided into 6 orders. All of a sudden, the Rambam, 1,000 years later, or 600 years later, he decides to make a new structure. 14 books. And 14, not 6 categories. Instead of 6 categories, there's 14 categories. I'll put this on the board. And there are 1,000 chapters. The entire code is 1,000 chapters. And that's divided out into 14 books. 14 categories. And that's the book that you're holding in front of you. As you can see, it was quite a massive undertaking. And until today, we study this code. We study all of this. But many times, you know what you do? You've heard of Rav Kook?
Yes.
You've heard of Rav Kook, right? You've heard of Rav Kook?
Yes.
Rav Kook said, some people study the Talmud, and some people study the Rambam, the Mishneh Torah, but there's a split between them. Here's the Talmud Bavli, the standard edition of the Talmud Bavli. It looks like this. And he said, I don't like this division, this split between those who study the Talmud and those who study the codes. So you know what I think I'm going to do? What he started to do? He decided to collect in his own writing. He said at the bottom of this is the standard page of the Talmud, he added a section down here where after each discussion, he writes the words of the Rambam. He brings from the Rambam's code and puts it inside the Talmud. Because we have to study the discussion in the Talmud, and we have to know how it was then codified, stated as law. So this is a very important project of his, to combine the two types of study, but some people do it, some people don't. Not everybody has Rav Kook's edition of the Talmud. This is a very special edition. In every edition nowadays, there is references. In the top corner, there's like a notation system of footnotes, where to go to look it up in the other book. But he said that's not enough. We need to put it actually in small print on the bottom of the page. And there's more halakhic discussions afterwards. So far, so good. We have 4 types of literature so far. Actually, I would say even 5. Torah is one type, prophets is another type, writings is another type. Let's put them all together and call that the written Torah. Okay? Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim. The Torah, the prophets, and the writings. That's Tanakh, the written Torah. Then we have the Talmud. It's true, the Talmud is composed of Mishnah and Gemara, but maybe I'll put that in so you have that equals Mishnah and Gemara. So we have now 2 types of literature. The written Torah, and then the oral Torah is summarized. It was oral, but they put it down in a book. So we have the written Torah and the oral Torah in a book form. Then we have responsive literature, Shut, Sheilot Utshuvot, and now we have codes, of which I just showed you one code, the Rambam's code of law, his Mishnah Torah, and before that other people mentioned the Shulchan Aruch, perhaps most famous as another code of Jewish law. It was not as complete as the Rambam's, but it was written only 500 years ago, not 800 years ago. So maybe perhaps more practical, because it's more up to date. But it's based on the Rambam. The work of the Shulchan Aruch is based on the Rambam's work. There are a number of codes, but people keep writing codes today. Because you might know of a famous one that's very popular, written 150 years ago in Hungary by Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried. And he said, he was a rabbi in Hungary, and he said, I see all the Jews, they're good people, they want to do the right thing, but they're getting this wrong, and they're getting this wrong, and they don't know, and the Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam, with all due respect, 1,000 chapters? It's too big. Right, 14 books? Who's going to read 14 books like this? The average layman just wants to know what to do. Even the Shulchan Aruch is divided up into 4 sections. Also, I can't remember how many chapters now. It must be 1,000 chapters also. 4. It's a massive work. It's too much. He decided to write a new code of law, much shorter. He chose a funny name. It became very popular. Until today, it's very popular. It's translated into 20 languages. 1 volume. All of the halakha for a Jew, from cradle to grave, from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. All the halachot you'll need for the Jew living in Hungary 150 years ago. He talks about some issues which are not so relevant today, but it's an amazing work, and it's very short. Many people study it as their book of halakha because it's small, it's manageable. As opposed to this book of 14 books, it's 1,000 years difference, 700 years difference. So you know what it's called? It's a funny name. It's called Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. It's not really. It's a misleading title because it's nothing to do with the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch has 4 sections. This is 1 volume. He called it a concise Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch means set table. So this is a concise. So in our library we have many copies. It's called, many people call it the Concise Code of Jewish Law. This is the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch.
I have it in my home.
You have it at home, yeah, in German.
No.
In Dutch. In Dutch. Amazing.
Dutch Hebrew.
Even Dutch. Dutch and Hebrew. Wow. Every language has a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. I don't know about Chinese. Not yet. Not yet. Maybe you'll write it. Okay, but there's more codes. Like we said, this is a new attempt add a new code. The Pnei Halacha, it's a series of, I think, 13 books now, and he's still alive today. He's writing 14th and 15th volume. He's essentially writing a new code of law, right? The laws of Hanukkah, the laws of prayer, the laws, all the topics that are covered by the Rambam, covered by the Shulchan Aruch. But obviously, the benefit of that being alive today is he can talk about the laws of Shabbat, of electronics, right? Refrigerators, technology. Even Rav Shlomo Ganzfried, 150 years ago, he couldn't. He talked about what happens if your donkey gets stuck, but not if your car gets stuck. They didn't have cars. So all the laws need to be updated for the current halacha. So there's more and more books of halacha still being written today. But that's another category, a type of literature. So I put it here in this time period. It's not precise. There's response until today. There's codes until today. But it's another type of literature. And the last, okay, so far so good? Comments, questions? Aaron, tell us a joke. No, yeah.
Ben Ishai, where did he come there?
Who's that? Ben Ishai. He is another code of Jewish law. His name was Rabbi Yosef Chaim David Azulai, and he lived in Iraq, Syria, Iraq, just about 100 years ago. Approximately the same time as the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. And he also, it's a book of halacha for the Iraqi Jews. We talked about the halacha book from Hungary. So it's a modern book of halacha from the Iraqi Jews, even a little bit more modern, and it became very popular. Many people study that. It's a unique combination because he keeps it connected, not only halacha. There's also another area of scholarship called Kabbalah. Mysticism, explanations of the Tanakh. The Talmud is everything. You see, the Talmud is not only law. A big portion of the Talmud is also explaining the Tanakh, the history of the Jewish people, the values of the Jewish people, the ethics of the Jewish people. It's all in the Talmud. And so there are books. I'm concentrating here on halachic matters, but after the Talmud, many books were written on other topics as well. Not just about halacha. So there's books of Kabbalah, there's books of Musar, ethics. But I didn't put them into my chart. I don't know. I guess they could fall into the category of commentaries. What is a commentary? I showed you. It's an explanation. It's like I was showing you the page of the Talmud. The truth is the Talmud it's only the middle section in the big letters. On the inside is a commentary. On the outside is a commentary. On the bottom is a commentary. There's so many commentaries written on all of these books. Primarily the first commentaries on the Talmud and on the Tanakh. There's always commentaries. Throughout the period, since the books were finished, people start to explain them. And so we have, the commentaries are not only in the later period, they're also in this period. We have commentaries from the Rishonim. And we have commentaries, some, from the Geonim. Primarily the Rishonim and the Achronim is the period when we have lots of commentaries. So if you were a scholar living in this era, after the Gaonic period, you had to choose. Am I going to write a book of halacha? Or I'm going to write a book of commentary. A running commentary on the Talmud, or, you know what there are many commentaries on now? What do you see here in front of you? Pick up your book. Read this Rambam. Open it up. Here too. The Rambam's text is just in the middle in the big letters. What do you have on the side? Commentary. Really, I have at home a volume of the entire 14 books in one volume. With no commentary. It's much smaller. But this is 14 volumes because of the commentary.
But how you can see from who is the commentary?
Oh, it says on the top of the title page. Who wrote the commentary? It says over here, who wrote the commentary? There's a guy called here. Yochai Makbili is the editor. They gathered together a group of scholars to make this commentary.
Okay.
But it always says at the beginning, which is the commentary on every book. Do you ever know of a commentary written on the Torah?
Yes, Rashi.
Rashi, you study him every day.
Yeah.
It's that type of literature. Commentaries. We have on the Torah, we have commentaries on the prophets, we have commentaries on the Ketuvim, we have commentaries on the Talmud, on the Mishnah, on the Gemara, we have commentaries on the Geonik, on the Gaonim, on the Responsa. Sometimes there's commentaries. But then on the codes, there's commentaries. There's even commentaries on the commentaries. Yes?
How do you categorize the book of Zohar?
It's a good question. Good question. This is what Benjamin was asking also. So I would categorize them as.
Versus it from 2,000 years ago or from like.
That's a good question. Also, how to date it is a question. But basically, you could call it a form of a midrash. We studied what midrash is the other day. Midrash is primarily from the period of Chazal. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, if it was written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, then he was a Tana. He was a Tana. He was from one of the sages. So it's like a commentary on the Torah, which in those days is called a midrash. Now there is a debate. Some people say not all of the Zohar maybe was written so early. If someone was written over here, I wouldn't call it a midrash. I would call it a commentary. Commentary on the Torah. It's a mystical commentary on the Torah. Talks about all the mystical secrets of Judaism. But essentially, it's a commentary. Midrash is a form of commentary, but it's usually only used for the period of Chazal, this primary, fundamental period of the sages, in the central branch of the menorah. Got it? Yafeh. So now you know all of the Torah in one board. 3,500 years of Jewish history and literature. Okay, so now everybody take out a piece of paper. Who needs a piece of paper? A blank piece of paper. There's a blank piece of paper and a pen. Everybody have?
About the same topics, the Rabbi and Rabbi Israel, Maimon, Rashi, the opinion couldn't fit or even contradiction.
We need to what?
Whose?
Whose?
Yes, whose opinion?
Oh, okay. So we believe that all of the, they tell the joke, they go to there's a couple who's having a fight, an argument. The wife says this, and the husband says the opposite, and they can't solve it, so they go to the rabbi. And the rabbi listens to the woman saying all of her arguments and all of her position. Excuse me, I'll turn this off. And the rabbi listens very intently, and he says to her, "You're right." And then the husband speaks, and he says, "Well, I think X, Y, Z, and this is why." And the rabbi listens intently, and he says, "You're right." And then they ask them, he says, "How can we both be right? We're fighting cats and dogs." And he listens to them and he says, "You're right." So we have this idea in the Jewish tradition of argument, and we believe that each side of the argument, or commentaries, different commentaries, or even different halacha of what you should do, we never say anybody's wrong totally, or usually not. They're all correct. Perhaps we're only going to apply halacha, practice, you have to choose. In the end of the day, you have to know what to do. But it doesn't mean that the other guy is absolutely wrong. It's like, what color is this? Is it black? This is black. That's not the same color. What color is this?
Dark black.
What? Yeah, dark black. What color is Ravid's beard, if you don't mind me saying so? What color is that beard?
Gray.
Yeah, what's gray? Is it black or white?
It is white black.
It's both. It's both. There's shades of gray. This is darker gray. This is gray. This is a little bit of white and a little bit brown. Same thing in Judaism. All of the different opinions, Rashi, Rambam, commentaries, codes. It's not that black and white.
Color, right. Color.
All is gray, maybe. All has some beautiful white in it. And we can't follow everybody in practice. But it doesn't mean they're wrong. It means that they're showing a different shade, a different perspective. They're looking at the halacha, the Torah, God's directions to us, God's instructions to us, in a different lens. Maybe their glasses are a little bit red. The other guy's glasses are a little bit green. That's how you see 3D, right? One glass red, one glass green. You see something like that. I don't know exactly how it works.
Blue and red. No.
Blue, was it?
Yeah, blue and red.
Blue and red, and then everything comes alive. So we're not willing to give up on anybody, on any of the codes or commentaries, and say they're absolutely wrong, because we won't have the depth of appreciation of the richness of God's word to us in all this tradition of Jewish history. So who do we follow? Practically, you follow your rabbi. Or when you study, choose which book to follow, or choose which community to join. And the rabbi of the community will tell you exactly the way we practice it. But doesn't mean the other guy's wrong. Okay? Yeah.
In our discussions, it's come out that Moshe had disappeared 40 years.
Disappear? Okay. 40 days. 40 days?
No.
No, what do you mean?
40 years.
40 years, okay.
The Kushi.
As a shepherd, you mean?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
The Kush.
Yeah.
You know what's Kush?
In Sudan.
Yes.
Yes, Sudan. Southern Egypt, yes.
He was king.
I heard this interesting...
Why they...
Yeah, this is
Is in the commentary, is in the...
There is a very esoteric story about... it's not in the Tanakh, and it's barely mentioned in Midrash somewhere.
No.
That Moshe Rabbeinu had... he spread his teachings to the non-Jews as well, all over Africa. Benjamin was hanging out with these guys for a long time. They're really into there's this black African Jewish tradition that has nothing to do with Judaism, but it's all the way back from Moshe Rabbeinu. It's a very interesting theory, but let's just say that
We keep it there.
we'll keep it there. Keep it there as a unique sort of curiosity. Moshe Rabbeinu came and taught Torah to the Jewish people. Of course, the aim is that the entire civilization, all of humanity, will learn from the light of Torah. But I don't see that there's any tradition of sort of secret Judaism anywhere in Africa. It's a very strange theory, in my opinion.
Huh?
Okay, but that's a good, interesting question. Yeah, it's a very strange theory. The fact that there are some tribal traditions in Africa, which, speak about good manners. What does that have to do with, Shabbat, Kashrut, and the laws of the Torah? Very, very, very minimal connections. A lot of ancient traditions, societies had laws about, how to manage themselves, but it doesn't seem to be too connected to Torah. And no reference of Moshe Rabbeinu seems to be. It doesn't seem convincing to me yet, but maybe someone will convince me one day. But that's not the major stream of Judaism in any case. Yeah. Okay? It's a good question, very interesting question.
Oh, thank you.
Where are we back to? Yeah, the codes, the paper. I gave you paper. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Everybody have a pen? Pinchas, you have a pen? I'm going to dictate for you questions. Turn the page over. Blank. A blank page. Blank page. Your notebook is fine. Yes. I'm going to give you a quiz.
Please.
A quiz. Okay, 10 questions. Question number 1. During which historical period was Hanukkah? Question number 2.
What is the number 1?
Number 1 question was, during which historical period was Hanukkah? You can choose the number, you can choose the years, you can choose the period of the leaders. Okay? The only thing that's a little bit not matching historically is this row of the literature, because the literature, it goes across eras. As I said, there's commentaries throughout. But anyways, second question. Second question is, name 2 codes of Jewish law and what period they are from. What period they were written. Name 2 codes of Jewish law and when they were written. In which period they were written. Okay? That's question number 2. Question number 3. Yes. Codes. Code. Halacha books. Codes. 2 codes of Jewish law. A code is a system of law, a book of law. Question number 3. When did King Solomon live? Shlomo. Solomon.
Was what?
When did King Solomon live?
Live.
Question number 4. Name 2 commentaries and when they were written. Okay, question number 5. Who destroyed the first temple? And when? Question number 6.
Still at 4.
I'm still at 4.
Okay, I'll wait.
Who destroyed the first temple?
And when was it? That was 5, right?
Yes.
Okay. Who destroyed the first temple and when? Question number 6. Yeah, first temple. Yeah. Question number 6.
Well, 5 was would destroy the first temple.
Yes, and when? Yes. Number 6.
Six.
Yes. In what book was the oral Torah collected? Or I could say first collected. Or
what book?
What major book? What major book was the oral Torah collected and written down? That's number 6. Number 7. When was the Tanakh, the written Torah, compiled and sealed or canonized? It's a fancy English word. When was the Tanakh canonized?
Which time you mean?
Yeah, which time? And by who?
In what?
The Tanakh. When was it compiled, closed, canonized, and by who? That's question, what was that, 6? 7. That was 7. What's question number 8? You ready?
No.
Still on 7?
Yeah.
Still on 7.
In what? Cananach?
6 was Tanakh, canonized. When was the Tanakh finished? Make it simple. When was the Tanakh finished and closed? Question number, what are we up to now? 8. Question number 8. How many books are there in the Talmud? Question number 9.
How many books?
Right. 8 was how many books in the Talmud?
There's 2 Talmuds. Both?
No, 1 Talmud.
There's 2 Talmuds, you're right. Choose whichever one you want.
Nine.
The question number 9. Name 2 acharonim. Later rabbis or later scholars. Name 2 acharonim and when they lived. Approximate. Okay, and the last question, which really is perhaps bonus.
What is that question?
I'm going to tell you in a second. And question number 10 is, what is the name of the authors of the Mishnah? And what is the name of the authors of the Gemara? We have a name that we call the people who wrote in the Mishnah, and we have a different name that we call the people who spoke and wrote in the Gemara.
The people in Torah who wrote.
Not their specific names, but there's a title of theirs. What's the title of the Mishnah authors and what's the title of the Gemara authors? 10 questions.
6 topics. Mishnah.
Yeah, what about it?
We need to write.
No, you don't have to list them. You don't have to list them all. You can look on the board if you like. I'll move out of the way. I'll get myself a drink.
We can start giving the questions.
Answer right away. Write them down. Write them down, of course. Write down the answers. That's it. Only 10 questions.
Another prize?
Sure. Should price.
Sometimes.
Good night. De laatste was van de Groningen. Dat is van de Can you say, Rab? Ah, ik weet al. By 9, just one of two.
Two.
What's the question? Sorry, I understand.
Like commentator from the
Aharonim? Two, please. Ah, it's not my point. Are you ready to purify the menorah? This is our menorah. The golden menorah in the temple in Jerusalem.
Nice question.
Nice question.
What
The ninth question? Rabbi, can you recite for us the ninth question, please?
nice.
Tell us what is the ninth question.
The ninth, give two names of give names of the two Achronim
Two
and
Aharonim.
when did they live?
Name two Aharonim and when they lived.
One still live now.
Some of them might, maybe. Maybe. I'm not going to tell you the answer.
The power for the information. The two Aharonim, what?
Their
The
names. Their names.
power. The power, all the information.
The tower or what?
All
The literature. Their names. Just the name of the people.
Oh.
The people.
Uh,
The rabbis. Usually rabbis.
But they say you have to write the name of the commentaries. Okay, also write the name of the commentations.
If you know also the name of their book, fine. If you know their names, it's better. That's what I asked for.
And they don't know the name of the book.
Don't name of the name. Okay, the name of the rabbi is fine.
Two Aharonim, big rabbi.
Yes.
Oh.
From the period of the Acharonim, only from years 1500 to 2000. Okay, 2 more minutes? 2 more minutes.
You have two commentaries. You know commentary?
How do you say commentary in Chinese? Aaron, how do you say commentary in Chinese?
1, 2,
Hindu?
That's say it in Mandarin, Aaron.
Yes, Hindu.
That's Mandarin? Oh, okay. Okay. So, let's see. What was question number 1? Who wrote them down? Eitan, what's the question first?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, so who can recite the question? Stephen, what was the question?
In what year?
Second story happened?
No,
Which
yes.
period?
In what period the Hanukkah story happened? Right.
Historical period.
temple destroyed.
We had Hanukkah.
Hanukkah. Okay, so what did you answer, Ravid?
And then the second temple period.
Good. Second temple period. And
So it's number 3.
Number 3, you could the Persia and Greece is the Greek period, right?
Yeah. Right.
Greek period. Correct. Yes. Yes. Minus 165. Very good. Very good. Everybody got that?
Yes.
Everybody got that correct? Yeah. Good. Okay. What was question number 2, Ravid? Will you read for us question number 2?
Give us 2 codes from the Jewish law and when
They were written. When they were written. Okay. Who has an answer for me? Eitan, yeah.
Rambam and Shulchan Aruch, both from the Rishonim.
Excellent. The Rambam's code, it's called Mishneh Torah, or Yad HaChazakah. Those are the 14 books. And that was written in year 1200 approximately. And the Shulchan Aruch, written by Rav Yosef Karo in year 1500. At the end of the period of the Rishonim. He's the border. He's on the border. Yes?
But can you also count let me say Yalkut Yosef, is also like a code?
Sure. It's also a code written in the period of the Acharonim.
And if because I had first written Shulchan Aruch, Maran / Rema.
They go together. There's 2 parts to that book. Very good. Very
So
good.
it's also different, yeah?
Yes.
Same name.
Very good. Okay, question number 3. What was 3?
When did Solomon live?
When did Solomon live? So what do you have, Benjamin? So when did King Solomon live?
Minus 2000.
Excellent. Very good.
First temple.
In the First Temple period. In the
Yeah.
Second era.
Yeah.
First Temple period. Very good. Beginning of the First Temple. Number 4. What was the question? No, are we up to 3 or?
Name 2 commentaries.
Well, 4 now. 4. Okay. What's number 4?
Yes.
2 commentaries and when they were written. Okay. So let's see. Who has an answer here? Who has an answer? Somebody that didn't hear yet. Pinshu. Pinshu. Pinchas. What do you have? 2 commentaries.
The competition was written in Turkish. Huh?
I want to make it clear. This is not clear. This line of the literature is not. This is not historical eras. This is not divided into the historical eras. There's commentaries from here, and there's codes from there. There's not only, commentaries are not only from the time of the Turks. You understand what I'm saying? This is, it's true about also the Torah, prophets, and the writings. It's not exact. They're written.
The Roman period.
Okay, what was written in the Roman period? Midrash. Excellent. It's not exactly a commentary because we call it a different name. We call it a midrash. But the midrash is sort of the oral Torah about the Tanakh. It's written sort of like a commentary on the Tanakh. Yafeh, another commentary. What was the question? Name 2 commentaries, right?
Gemara.
So what is it? No. So the Gemara, you could say, is a commentary of the Mishnah.
Mishnah Torah.
Mishnah Torah is a code.
The code.
The Rambam is a code. It's not a commentary.
Rashi?
Rashi is a commentary, of course. Rashi.
Oh.
When was Rashi written? When did Rashi live? Period of the Rishonim, right? Right. Have you heard of, this book? It has English. Written by maybe King James. I don't know, whoever it was. It's a commentary. There's all sorts of commentaries. There's a Chumash with the commentary of... anybody other commentaries that you know? Yeah. Or Chaim. Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch. He was an Achron. And he wrote a commentary on all of the Tanakh. There's commentaries on the Talmud. The Rosh, the Rashba, you might have heard. Many, many commentaries. Onkelos is the earliest commentary that we have. It's a translation. Every translation is also commentary, but it's more a translation than a commentary. Yes?
And also, in the Ashram books, like from the Art Scroll, from the Tanakh, they always
All
talk about
commentary.
Abarnel and Abarnel and the other one with the M.
Abarbanel and Malbim, maybe?
Yes, Maldi.
These are Acharonim. They lived, during the expulsion from Spain. Abarbanel was expelled from Spain. He was close to the royalty there and was very disillusioned when they kicked him out. From Spain and Portugal. This is the 15th century, 16th century. So they're Acharonim, Abarbanel and Malbim. There's many, many commentaries. Until today, there's commentaries being written every single day.
Yeah, Jonathan sucks.
Sure.
People you don't even know, maybe.
That's right. That's right. I'm waiting to see your commentary on the Torah. Next, what's question number 4? 5. Thank you. What's question number 5?
I don't know.
What's the question?
Who destroyed the first temple and when was it?
Okay. Who destroyed the first temple? Israel. Who destroyed the first temple and when?
Babylon,
Good.
and then the
In the period here called the second period, and very good. It was year. Anybody know the year?
573.
Minus 586. Minus 586.
586.
Minus 586. And what was the name of the general who destroyed the first temple? The Babylonian ruler. Nebuchadnezzar. Who's the ruler? The ruler. Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar. He destroyed the first temple, right? Okay. Question 6. Ravid, what's the question?
In which book was the oral Torah written?
What's the answer, Ravid? What's the answer? In what book was the oral Torah written?
What year?
What book is a collection of all of the oral teachings?
The Mishnah.
Hang on. Good. That you have a choice. You could answer the word Mishnah, which is what we learned yesterday, the 6 orders of the Mishnah, right? The 63 Masechtot of the Mishnah. And you could also answer Talmud. That's what we have here. The major work of the sages is the Talmud, which is the Mishnah and the Gemara discussions upon it. Very good. Yeah.
You told us like that the first collections written down of the Torah traditions is the Midrash.
True, but the Midrash is more in the form of a commentary. It's not a separate book. It's not a separate, like a new structure. You're right. The Midrash is in the same period. The Midrash is right as well. You would be right by saying Midrash as well. But the major work is the Talmud. Yeah? Huh? Next question, 7. Ravid, what's the question?
When was the Tanakh collected and from who?
And sealed, yeah, and by who, yes. Collected, canonized is the word we use. Who knows the answer to that? Maybe Aaron. What is
Second temple period, Ezra the scribe.
Good. Second temple period, the scribes. Ezra was known as a scribe, Ezra Sofer. And it's that time where we said the 24 books of the Bible were completed. Who else helped him?
Malachi.
Who else helped Ezra?
The men of the Great Assembly.
There you go. The men of the Great Assembly. The 120 men of the Great Assembly. We don't know all of their names. We know some of them were. They were members of the great Knesset, not the modern day Knesset. No prophets in the modern day Knesset.
Question number 8.
Yes.
How many books are in the Talmud?
Okay. Who has an answer?
63.
Very good. So it's a little more complicated though. There's 63 books in the Mishnah. Right?
Yes.
Mishnah is 63 books. But if you want to look for the Gemara discussions, we don't have on all of those 63. Only on 37 of them in the Babylonian Talmud and 39 in the Jerusalem Talmud. So they're all good answers. All good answers. Those are the number of the books of the Talmud. The complete set of Mishnah is 63. And then the Gemara is only 37 or 39. Okay? Next. What's the next question?
Give 2 names of the Acharonim and when did they live?
Okay. Who wants to answer that? Who didn't answer yet? Who? Everybody's answered. Everybody's answered. Except for maybe Stephen didn't answer. Stephen, what's your answer for the name's 2 Acharonim? You don't know. Okay. Yeah, Eitan, help me out.
Rabbi Melamed and Rabbi Meir.
Rabbi Melamed.
Yes.
You mean the guy who wrote this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. He's an Acharon.
I took the book.
And what's the next one you said?
Rabbi Meir.
Who's that?
He has like.
My name is Menachem. Did you mean to say me?
Oh no.
What did you mean to say? What did you mean? Acharonim. Anybody who's alive today is an Acharon. Approximately.
But just now we discussed that. Ben Ishai is
Ben Ishai is an Acharon too. Yeah, who else? Rav Kook was an Acharon. Very good. Who else?
Yeah.
Banasher.
Rabbi Kanievsky. Yes. An Acharon. Acharon. That's right. Anybody in the last 500 years? Any rabbi from the last 500 years? That's the name of an Acharon. The Chafetz Chaim. Rav Moshe Feinstein. Many Acharonim. Many Acharonim. Okay. And the last question, the bonus, the hardest one. What did we say? The names of the titles of the people the authors of the Mishnah and the Gemara. Yes, Michael.
Tanaim and Amoraim.
Very good. For everybody. Yeah. Well done. Okay, you're sweating a little today. This is a tough quiz, but we learned a lot. Now, what are we celebrating on Hanukkah? We're celebrating the whole second half. The beginning of the Judaism. Ever since the Second Temple period. Second Temple. The temple was purified after the Greeks defiled it. But ultimately, we celebrate with oil, which represents the Torah. Which Torah? Not the Torah from before, the written Torah, but the oral Torah. The oral Torah and how it got developed in all these different ways, in all these 2,000 years since Hanukkah, 2,200 years since Hanukkah. That's what we're celebrating, the oral Torah. That's why I'm showing you this whole, so you understand what we're celebrating in Hanukkah. It's not just about a little sevivon. That's nice. Sevivon. So we'll stop here for today, B'ezrat Hashem. We still have to finish the laws of Hanukkah.